Hello everybody and welcome to Omnipoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. I'm Jack and today we've had some really exciting news. Finally we've seen, we found out what the V-Union mechanic is going to be. It's kind of been on everyone's lips ever since it was announced, I think late last year. Was it going to be the return of tag teams? Was it going to be owners Pokemon? Was it going to be legend Pokemon? And it turns out it's something akin to legend Pokemon. Really interesting mechanic. Definitely going to be very excited to see where they take this. But it looks to be kind of, as you can see down here, a spin-off of Legend Pokemon. Essentially, this is the new mechanic. It's 4 cards in one. So in this case, it's 4 Greninja V-Union cards. They all share the same name. And you have to play all of these at once. You can only play them from the discard pile. So there's a couple of weird and interesting rules with these. As I mentioned, you have to play it onto your bench from your discard pile, so you have to have all 4 pieces, for example, of this Greninja Union in your discard pile. You would then be able to play the Greninja V Union onto your bench. That's a mechanic we haven't really seen before outside of things like Giratina's ability back from Lost Thunder. We've never seen it as a built-in mechanic. It's only ever been like an ability, that kind of thing. So something pretty new. And as you can see, again, we're sticking with around 300 HP, and these also do give up 3 prizes. Luckily, no 4 prizes. When I first saw them, I kind of thought it might be 4 prizes because it's 4 cards making the V-Union up. But no, 3 prizes if you take a knockout on one of these V-Union Pokemon. Also, you can only play 1 V-Union per game per V-Union, if that makes sense. So if you play Greninja V-Union and it gets knocked out, you can't play another Greninja Union V-Union from your discard pile, but you could say then play as Zacian V-Union or a Mewtwo V-Union, which are the 3 we've had revealed today. So you can play multiple V-Unions, but only the same V-Union once. So yeah, that's most of the rules. Each of these cards share the same name, so you can only play 1 of each. I think that's something that people haven't realised how potentially really bad that is for the not archetype, but the gameplay mechanic, because if you prize any one of these 4 pieces, basically you're playing 4 one-offs that you have to not prize any of them. That's pretty scary because it's fairly likely that you do prize at least one of these cards, and it would just mean that your whole V-Union doesn't really work. So it's going to be difficult to build decks around these. I think we're expecting a lot of V-Union support in general. Maybe that will be getting them out of the prizes. Maybe that will be some kind of V-Union that can replace one of these pieces, or a card, a Pokemon, a Ditto maybe, that can replace one of these 4 pieces, and you can V-Union like that. I think we're going to be getting some kind of support like that. Obviously, this is just kind of the initial teaser, and because of that, I actually think these cards aren't that strong. Given the limitations by the mechanic and the attacks and abilities we see, I don't think these are actually that crazy. I think we will get crazy ones. I would expect this will be something that they push. With the Legends, the first couple, Lugia and Ho-Oh, weren't really that good. But there were some that saw play, the dogs saw play, or Legendary Beasts, I guess. Rayquaza Deoxys was very good as well. So yeah, I would be expecting, obviously, some of these to eventually get some strong V-Union cards. I also think it's probably fairly likely we will see combinations of Pokemon on these. We've seen tag teams do it. We've seen that they can put 2 Pokemon in the same place or on the same cards, and they've got a lot more real estate sort of visually. So I would expect we will eventually see some combinations of V-Union Pokemon, which is really exciting to see. Not the one thing I like about tag teams, but one thing I do like about tag teams is it's a combination of Pokemon that maybe normally you wouldn't see together. Gengar Mimikyu, say, or Celebi Venusaur. Really interesting sort of combinations and art styles for those, so hopefully we will get more of those. And yeah, the final thing, as I mentioned, is you can see that there are multiple attacks and abilities on all of these cards. You can use as many abilities as you want per turn, so you can use all 3 of Greninja's abilities, or a couple of them are passive, but you know what I'm saying. But obviously you can only use 1 attack, so you would have to pick which of the 4 attacks that Greninja has to use. So yeah, pretty exciting mechanic. I will dive into what the cards do just quickly, but really exciting to finally have this mechanic out. Look at how much text there is for 1 card here. It's crazy. So yeah, first off, we've got Greninja V-Union, 300 HP. I'll go for the abilities first. First one is Probing Foot. Once during a turn, you may look at your opponent's hand. Hand knowledge is always good. We've seen even cards such as Lavender Town, a Stadium, that has this exact effect. Pretty much do that, see play, so a nice ability to have. Antidote Jutsu, this Pokemon can't be poisoned. Again, nice to have. Never going to be hugely sort of consequential in a game, but again, just a nice bonus ability to have. And finally, Shinobi Body. Whenever your opponent plays an item card from their hand, prevent all effects of that card done to this Pokemon. So things like Crushing Hammers, Pokemon Catchers, that kind of thing won't work. So again, a bit of inbuilt defense is nice. I'm sure there will be certain cards that target V-Unions specifically, things like Great Catcher for Vs and V-Unions. I don't know for sure whether these are considered V Pokemon in the same way that VMAXs are considered V Pokemon. So if we ever get like a Great Catcher that targets V Pokemon, this may be able to target those. I don't think we've had confirmation of that yet, but that's kind of the thing that this ability will prevent, which is cool. Onto the attacks. The first one is Union Gain. All three of the Pokemon have this Union Gain attack. Attach up to 2 water energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. So, and again, I want to say an early game setup attack. I think it's going to be really difficult to get these cards out early game. I think it's going to be fairly difficult to get these cards out at all. But again, we'll see support down the line. But yeah, obviously some kind of inbuilt acceleration is nice. The only thing I'm scared about with this kind of Union Gain attack on all of these, and again, I think it's akin to the fact that these are probably just the introduction pieces. I don't think these are necessarily going to be the staples, the sort of the show-off cards. I think these are just introducing us to the mechanic. But it's a lot of effort to get one of these V-Union Pokemon out. You have to get all 4 of the Pokemon into the discard pile, and then from there, get them onto the bench, get them into the active, attach. It's a bit of a letdown to then just have to basically pass after all of that effort. So this kind of attack is, again, never detrimental, but I think if you're having to use Union Gain in a situation like this, you're going to be pretty sad, unfortunately. The second attack, Aqua Edge, is just 1 for 130. This is something I think we're going to be expecting to see. I think 1 for 130 on one of these V-Union attacks is very, very fair, just because it's a lot of effort to get one of these out. It's pretty interesting to kind of see the comparison between some of these different Pokemon, but I think for the amount of effort it's going to take to get a V-Unit out, 1 for 130 is probably a fairly balanced style attack. We have Twister Shuriken for 2 waters and a colourless that does 100 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, so essentially just a 100 snipe with no drawback. Again, I wouldn't compare these attacks. I think these attacks are very, very... I think this is a lot more expensive than this, especially when we have boss in format, so pretty interesting to see this. But yeah, we've just had Flaffy announced, and it looks like Flaffy will be a pretty big part of the metagame, especially when Mew rotates, so this is going to be targeting down those Flaffies, which is a bit unfortunate. But yeah, other than that, obviously sniping is great, but it's a fairly expensive cost, to be honest. It's a similar amount of energy to Rapid Strike Urshi, and Rapid Strike Urshi gets a net 140 damage more. Obviously it discards the energy, but yeah, I think potentially this is the weakest attack. And then finally, Waterfall Bind does 180 for the same cost, and the defending Pokemon can't retreat next turn. Again, we've seen this kind of attack do well in the past. Being able to find some way of ability locking or something is pretty good. Not ability locking, sorry, item locking to try and also stop switch effects. But we have Bird Keeper, so again, this kind of effect will probably always be a little bit underwhelming, whilst we have Switch and Bird Keeper style effects as supporters. So yeah, not the greatest. I think the art is the huge selling point of this card, but again, like I say, I don't think these are necessarily meant to be game-breaking. I think these are an introduction piece. Onto Zacian V-Union, 320 HP Metal type. Again, that Union Gain with, this time, searching for metals, of course. Wise King's Dance for 2 metals and a colourless does 150, and during your opponent's next turn, attached from the defending Pokemon do 150 less damage. Now that is a big deal. Obviously we have switching effects, again, like I say, that will mitigate this. But if they can't switch, there's going to be they're going to need to do a lot of damage to be able to actually even start putting damage counters on us, which is crazy. Again, we have so many ways of moving. I don't think this is going to be too consequential. But regardless, that's a big debuff. We've seen decks that have like a -30 debuff before still be fairly relevant, albeit not really in this format. But things like Golisopod had a -20 buff, and that was pretty key sometimes. The format was a little bit different, but the point is these kind of effects are sometimes very, very strong, and 150 is absolutely bonkers for the amount of damage you're actually reducing. So this V Union I think has some potential with this attack, but again, because of all the switching outs, I think it's going to be pretty hard to actually build around, especially given the restraints of the mechanic. Steel Slash for the same cost is just a flat 200 damage, a nice beat stick, and finally for 3 metal in the colours, Master Blade does 340 damage and discards 3 energy from this Pokemon. So this basically knocks out a VMAX or a V Union, which is this is another big selling point of this card. This is, like I say, if any of these pieces are prized, it's pretty awkward. You have to commit 4 spaces into your deck to be able to potentially not even play an attacker. But there is a world, especially with Metal Sorcerer in format, that you could get a Master Blade from nothing and then and Bronzong as well in format, and realistically just win the game outright from nothing. You've taken 3 prizes on Jirachis, Dedenes, Crobats, that kind of thing, just slowly setting up, and then bang, Master Blade, knock out your opponent's tag team, VMAX, V Union, whatever. Absurd. So I think this is potentially the best one, just because of the inbuilt Metal Sorcerer / Bronzong capabilities, but again, the mechanic has its constraints, so there may be limitations to that. Finally, we have Mewtwo V Union. Again, we'll start with the abilities, just pointing this one out. Photon Barrier, prevent all effects of your opponent's attacks except damage done to this Pokemon. Again, a nice little passive defensive ability to have. You're never too sad to see something like this, discarding energy from attacks, things like that. Your opponent can't attack next turn. All of those kind of things aren't affected by you, which is great. Again, Union gain. Pretty sad to see this. Pretty sad to have to use this, but maybe there will be situations. 300 plus HP is still very, very difficult to knock out, so you probably do have time to Union gain. It's just a bit sad if you can't, if you do get knocked out because you've spent your one-time mechanic and all of this sort of effort getting this Pokemon out to then not be able to take the knockout, which is, well, not be able to really do anything, which is, kind of sad, but it is what it is. Super Recovery for 2 Psychic and a Colorless is just heal 200 damage. Just heal. So if this has taken a hit, you can just heal up, which is pretty cool. That we're moving more towards a 2-shot meta, I think, with the amount of HP. Basically, you're only ever going to be getting 1 shot by, I guess, Zacian V Union and your weakness. So healing 200 damage is probably fully healing this Pokemon in a lot of situations, which is cool. You're not really doing anything else, but if maybe you're just able to build some kind of walling deck and your Mewtwo just never gets knocked out. Again, very scary to go all in on one of these V Union Pokemon as your mainstay mechanic, because you can't really build around it too well. Just because if any of the pieces are prized, your whole strategy falls apart like a tower of cards. But hey, there will be situations, I guess, where you can just Super Recovery your opponent out of the game. Maybe play it with something like Inteleon VMAX, or the Rapid Strike Inteleon that we just had released to just start doing 20s everywhere, something like that. I don't know. So Explosion does puts 16 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon any way you like, so that kind of feeds into the Inteleon game plan. 16 damage counters is insane. That's 4 damage counters off of a full SBDO GX attack, which was 3 energy more. So for the cost of 3 energy, we're losing 4 damage counters. I think I'd take that trade almost always. So yeah, really, really strong. Again, maybe you're just leaving this in the active, using Super Recovery every turn, peppering some stuff up with Rapid Strike Inteleons each turn, and then you just go into a Psysplosion for game, because you can just put damage counters to the point where you take 6 prizes in a turn. Could be pretty cool. And then finally, Final Burn does 300 damage for 3 Psychic and a Colorless, sorry. So again, another big sort of blow-up attack. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. Finally, we also have Professor Bernat revealed as a supporter card from these V-Union decks. Search your deck for up to 2 cards and discard them, then shuffle your deck. This alone shows how broken Battle Compressor was. That people I think still don't realize how broken Battle Compressor was. They've nerfed Battle Compressor by you only get 2 cards. They've made it once per turn a supporter card, and that's how they've had to balance that. It's insane. So yeah, really, really interesting cards. Obviously, you're going to want to use the supporter to search for 2 V-Union pieces and throw them in a discard to be able to use them at a later date. So yeah, very interesting stuff. Let me know what your thoughts are to the V-Union mechanic down below. I'm very excited to see where they go with this. Like I say, I don't think any of these are particularly broken, and I think the natural limitations of the mechanic are going to mean it's going to be hard to build around these cards. But that being said, very exciting stuff. I think the art is obviously incredible, and I like it when Pokemon make cards with multiple Pokemon on one card, and I hope that this opens the door for them to do that again. I think that was a big selling point of the tag teams, and I hope that it becomes a big selling point of the V-Union cards as well. But yeah, other than that, thanks so much for watching. Like I say, let me know what you think about V-Union down below. I think we're not going to get them until sort of November time over here. So we've still got a little time to wait, but it's nice to finally know exactly what this mechanic is. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from Omnipoke, and I look forward to seeing you guys in another video. Cheers.